Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the April 4th, 2013 regular meeting of the Olathe School District Board of Education. Ms. Hibbs, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Ashley. Dr. Daniels. Mrs. Felter. Present. Mrs. Martin.
Here.
Mr. Parker.
Here.
Mr. Poland.
Here.
Mr. Shear.
Here.
Would you all rise for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dr. Daniels informed me that she is out of town this evening, and Ms. Ashley intends to join us about 7 o'clock tonight. Before we get started, there are a couple things that are not on our agenda that I would like to mention. First of all, we have a special visitor tonight. Alexandra Wilkerson is a student at Shawnee Mission Northwest, and she is here to observe with her brother Zach. I'd just like to say welcome and thank you for coming. And then also there was a school board election last week. I would like to offer my congratulations to Mr. Poland on his victory.
And Ms. Martin.
And he and I were running, thank you. Thank you. He and I were running unopposed, and you may know that Ms. Ashley did not run this time. And so there was a race there, and Mr. Brent McCune is in the audience. He's going to be, July 1st, a new board member. I'd like to welcome you, Brent. And on behalf of myself and the other board members, I'm sure we are all available if you have questions between now and July 1st. And fortunately for Mr. Hutchison, I don't sing. But there was a note on my desk that he's celebrating a very special birthday tonight, and I would like to, actually it's not today, is it? Or is it tomorrow? I would like to wish you a very happy birthday. Okay, on with the agenda. We're going to start with a presentation on our Avid program, and I believe Dr. Gretchen Shirk is going to be leading that.
Thank you. Well, it's certainly my pleasure to bring information to the board tonight on our Avid program. This has been an exciting program in our district for several years, though not an extremely long history. And we're going to take a few minutes just to look at what is the Avid program, and then an opportunity to share highlights of what our seniors, our Avid seniors have done, and then be able to hear the voices of our Avid students. This slide illustrates what is Avid, and of course it's a rather lengthy definition, but I tried to highlight the key components. And it is a college readiness and preparation program. It assists students with access and success once they're in post-secondary education. It's based on research-based methods of effective instruction. It provides strategic student intervention, and it all centers around a college-going culture. Quick history lesson on Avid. We've had it in place since the 2006-07 school year. We started at 5 sites, 3 of the high schools and 2 of the then junior highs. The initial process was for our schools to apply to participate in Avid, and then we had a committee that looked at their applications, and then in the 7-8 school year we added 3 additional sites, the 4th high school and 2 more junior highs. Avid's gone through some transition, of course, as we moved to a middle school, high school model. So now we have 8th grade only Avid at middle school, and then the 4 grades at high school. Our programs go through an annual certification review. They have to meet general requirements that they're providing throughout the school year. They submit general data that is representative of the demographics of the students in their Avid program. The Avid seniors go online and submit information about themselves, the kind of coursework they did while in high school, as well as their plans post-high school. And then the sites themselves go through a certification process on the 11 Avid essentials. And they cover such things as student recruitment, staff training, their site teams. Each of our buildings have an Avid site team, and then the tutorials and the tutors, and that's something we'll talk a little bit more about. To give you a quick profile of who these Avid students are, The program targets students in the academic middle, and for us that's roughly a 2.5 to a 3.5 grade point average. Higher is fine. And the part that we look at in particular as well is their desire and determination to attend college. So it's students who are underrepresented historically, as you'll see in one of the bullets, in our four-year colleges and universities, that then this support that they receive in Avid provides them that extra boost to move on. We look at particular components of their background. Are they the first in their family to attend college? Again, are they underrepresented at college and universities? Are they from a background of poverty? And are there other certain special circumstances that we would consider? Part of the whole Avid conversation is the fact that Avid is not necessarily an at-risk program. We have alternative education opportunities for our students. This targets a particular group of students that we have in all of our buildings. In terms of the application process, it's rather intensive. Students are recommended by their 8th grade teams to participate in Avid. They fill out an application, they provide letters of support and reference from their teachers, and then they participate in an interview. Another important component of the application process is the parents, and that's having them show their support for the kind of rigor that their student will be expected to participate in as an Avid student. So the extra homework that they'll be asked to do, the extra reading and writing, we want to know the parents are on board with supporting that at home as well. And then a rubric's used to assign priority to the students in terms of their acceptance into the program. A little bit more on the application process. I've mentioned most of these, but we really do look at the site teams look very closely at the students, not only their GPA, which is of course what we would assume is part of their academic potential, as long as test scores and other information in their academic background. But the component of the Avid acronym, the individual determination, is truly something that is looked at very seriously with the review teams. The challenging kinds of classes the students would commit to would be any of our AP courses. It may be dual credit courses, or Avid does give us the opportunity to look at rigor and challenge in terms of the individual students. So if whatever it is that is more challenging and stretches the student is where we want them to be as part of Avid. And then, as I mentioned, it's their commitment to doing the extra homework, the study sessions, and perhaps some summer reading as part of stretching themselves academically. A snapshot of our Avid enrollment, just so you have an idea of the number of students participating. Currently, during the 12-13 school year, there have been 67 Avid 8th graders, 468 Avid students at our senior highs, 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th grade. In terms of gender balance, they're about 40% male and 60% female. We do look at, as we're looking at the enrollment in Avid, and want it to represent the underrepresented or the students groups within the school that it's in. And then I thought you might be interested to know that the free and reduced lunch enrollment in Avid is about 37% as an average. This graph is just a quick visual that shows the trend line on our Avid enrollment, and obviously it is a growing program. The Avid class is an elective class, so the student chooses to enroll. They meet 2 days a week in and go through the Avid set curriculum, which covers a number of things, all of which nicely now align with Common Core and College and Career Ready. Strong focus on critical reading, which we know is important across all content areas. Then also within the Avid curriculum are the opportunity to have guest speakers. The students make college visits, and they also receive information and from both in-house and on their college visits about scholarships, financial aid, and just the college application process. Probably the highlight of the Avid elective class, and not that this other isn't very, very important, are the tutorials. And when you think of Avid tutorials, these are not one-on-one tutoring sessions. These are teaching students to actively participate in study groups that are facilitated by our Avid tutors, but they are really run by the students themselves. So the students become kind of mini teachers within their study groups, and you see a picture here of a study group, a tutorial going on, and then we'll also, when we look at the video clip, see some more examples of what these tutorials look like. The Avid strategies are referred to as Wicker. writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. Cornell note-taking, which is a split-page note-taking format, is what's promoted and taught in Avid. And the Avid binder, which you can also see this young man proudly displaying in this picture, is very much a key part of the Avid strategies. It's an organizational tool, it's a time management tool, and it is something that just is key to the whole Avid philosophy in terms of, again, a student taking responsibility for their learning. Then I mentioned the tutorial groups, the study groups. They utilize strategies that we utilize in our general curriculum, Socratic seminar and philosophical chairs, and then I also mentioned the importance of critical reading. Oops. Yep. I think I missed a slide there. Excuse me. We'll go right on. Avid highlights. Avid has been embraced beyond just the four walls of our school buildings, and as this slide illustrates, connections with communities well beyond Olathe and many to the advantage of our students. Emporia State University sponsors a summer bridge program where our students are invited to spend a couple of days on the ESU campus. They stay in the dorm, they eat in the cafeterias, they attend some classes, they do a number of things that makes them feel like real college kids and have that authentic experience. K-State and WSU both have dedicated Avid scholarships. We have the local Pathmaker Scholarship that's sponsored by the Fry family. When Dr. All retired, she sponsored the All Grants, Avid Lifetime Learners, that support many students other than Avid, but this particularly focuses on support for College Now and JCCC tuition while the students are in high school. I thought you might be interested to know just a snapshot of our 2012 Avid grads. They generated an offer of over $1 million in scholarships. And then also past graduates have also been recognized as Dell and Gates Millennium Scholars. These are national scholarships that generate big, full-time, complete scholarship packages for these students, highly competitive and highly sought after. We have schools that are looking at National Demonstration School status. This is recognized by the Avid organization. It's a boost and recognition for our schools that work very hard to maintain fidelity of the program in Avid, but it's also an opportunity for Olathe to be put on the map for the great things that all these staff are doing with their Avid programs. We sponsor an all Avid event once a year. We're up to, obviously, over 500 students participating. Many team building activities are part of that event. We have an inspirational speaker that comes in to visit with the students, and it's become just an annual event that the students look forward to when they can meet students, Avid students from across the district, and get to share stories and connect. We also, the top picture on this slide is of a new event. It'll be the third year this year, coming up this fall, sponsored by our Avid Regional organization and Sporting KC. They sponsor a college night where the students have the opportunity to visit with a number of divisions within the Sporting KC organization, which really is very interesting to the kids because of the sports piece of it, but they also find out behind the scenes the kinds of things that go on in HR departments or go on in other kinds of divisions related to any organization, and then the students have the opportunity to watch a soccer game, which is very intriguing. And our students also engage in, as part of the Avid program, a great deal of community service and volunteering, and that slide at the bottom just illustrates the students volunteering at one of our elementary schools. What I'd like to do now is give you an opportunity to hear the voice of Avid and hear from some of the students. You'll see them participating in tutorials and also hear from one of our Avid facilitators. This was taken off of our district website, Focus On segment.
In every high school and 4 of the 9 middle schools in the Olathe School District, there is a unique program that gives a group of students the extra support they need to be successful in college. It's called Advancement via Individual Determination, or AVID.
We identify kids in the junior highs and then throughout their high school experience, kids that are motivated, that are really capable, and that we feel like are ready to take the next step as a student and move into that top tier of student with the goal of preparing them for a four-year university. And so the idea would be, as a member of Avid, that we're walking them through that process to become prepared for college.
Avid is a national program designed to help students achieve more than they ever hoped or imagined. Students meet every day with their Avid class for their entire high school career. Together, they work on building the study and organizational skills and higher thinking necessary for success.
And what I do Pi times 3.
Avid has given me the opportunity to learn certain skills that I will need to know for college and for now, so that I will be a better student.
When I first came, I was just coming out of junior high. I was really young, and then now I'm going off into college and be by myself, and I think Avid has really prepared me for that, because with Avid I really learned like what it means to be a good student and how you could be a good student.
Success has taken many forms with Avid. For some, Avid has helped them focus on the future, learn to organize their studying and note-taking. For others, Avid has given them an opportunity they never knew they could have, to be the first in their family to attend college. Jenny Sibile's family immigrated from Laos.
It helps you know the things that you wouldn't know if you're a first generation, and if you're like a third generation and you haven't had like the experience in filling out all these forms and all that, you'll definitely get the information from the counselor and from the Avid teacher. I wouldn't have known anything that I know now if I didn't take Avid.
Thanks to donors from the Olathe Public Schools Foundation's All Fund, many Avid students receive scholarships to pay for their first college courses they take while still in high school. It's just one more way that the community empowers Olathe students to change their lives for the better. Teachers in every Avid classroom are dedicated to making sure their students achieve success. That dedication, combined with the hard work of students, is paying off.
Just the overall concept of getting kids to do more than they thought they could do, and then providing them with the skills that they need, with support that they need. There are kids out there that have tons of capability that just need a little bit of support to do really great things. It's very, very special. You know that you're doing things that maybe is going to change their entire future.
If you could say anything to Mr. Butler, what would you say?
I would say thank you so much. He has no idea how much he's done for me or what he's going to do or how he's shaped my future, and I would say thank you for everything he's done, all the little things, and making sure I've stayed on top of my classes and, helping me with the ACT and SAT and just like all those. Yeah, it's been so much.
So, you see a slice in the life of an Avid student as well as some history and background on Avid. Thank you.
Comments, questions? I have a few. It sounds like a wonderful program, and I served on the site council at Olathe East, and a couple of years ago, Dr. Berry brought in some of his Avid students to talk to us, and it was very moving. And one of the things that really struck me was that these kids, they look at their Avid group as a family.
Family, yes.
And it's their support group. So when kids are accepted into the program, say in 8th grade, then are they automatically in the program every year?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Some students do kind of outgrow Avid and move on, which is fine. That's the wind under their wings, and they're good to go. Mm-hmm. Other students make other enrollment choices because it is an elective class, so it takes up a slot on their schedule. Our retention rate is very high, however, and we've been pleased to see that grow, which tells us that what we're doing in Avid is meeting the students' needs.
Okay. Do we turn students away?
Yes, we do. Again, we turn them away based on the rubric, so where they meet the requirements and the things that we have set as what our criteria for Avid, which were guided by the Avid organization in terms of what they suggest and want us to be looking at in terms of the type of student that would be an Avid student.
Do we feel like we're meeting the needs of the students who have the need? Is the program large enough? Because I know it's not in all of our middle schools,
correct.
And so I assume that there are potential Avid kids in those schools.
I'm sure that there are. We gracious and very dedicated administrators figure out how to make staffing work to keep Avid on their master schedules because it obviously takes staff away from other teaching assignments to be able to do Avid. It also takes, I would say, a special teacher to do Avid, someone who has a passion for delving into curriculum in this way, really becoming the mom or the dad to these students, and then staying with them. Many of our Avid programs loop with the kids, so I may start out teaching freshman Avid, the next year I do sophomore Avid, then I do junior, and then I do senior. Well, that's a different process than many teachers have been used to. So were it that we would have the opportunity to grow Avid, I think that would be something we'd want to look at.
Okay. Now, I have one more question. Students going in, it said you're looking for the students in the academic middle, and you define that as a 2.5 to a 3.5. Do we track their GPAs? Do we see increases?
Yes, we do. One of the slides that for some reason disappeared from my slideshow was a look at our senior data, and it indicates that on average, this is across the 6 years that we've had Avid in place, the graduating seniors' GPA is a 3.3. which is a nice GPA, considering the dual credit options that they're in, the AP classes that they're in, and again, it's our average across all the students that have been in Avid.
Mm-hmm. And the goal really is for these students to graduate and then pursue a post-secondary education. Do we track those numbers?
We do to the extent we can. That's really a self-report for the most part. We also, there's a national student database that provides some of that information, but it hasn't been in place very long, and part of that has to do with our ability to talk to post-secondary and to track kids because of privacy of information.
Right. But we do know they're receiving scholarship offers, so hopefully they're accepting those.
And they often come back and are invited back to talk to the high school Avid classes, and the middle schools for that matter, to talk about their experience in college and talk about everything that Avid did for them and how they've used, you know, you may hate your binder, you may not like getting prepared for tutorials, but guess what? I'm using it every single day. So it's a good message. It's a very strong message.
I would like to see us be able to extend Avid to all of our middle schools. I think you know, the exposure at the middle school level really helps kids see the benefit when they get to high school. I do believe it's a very valuable program. It meets a very a specific need for a group
targeted
of kids.
Group of students.
Any other comments or questions?
Tonight, one of the board action items is approval of the Avid program, and I was going through the documents that are attached to that. And Dr. Shirk, one of them, kind of preparing on what Ms. Martin said, is in addition, Avid Strategies are being implemented school-wide in many of our schools, K through 12. I take it that those strategies are being implemented outside of the grant that we'll be approving tonight? It's
not a grant. It's our membership agreement with the Avid organization, and that's just our annual dues. The school-wide implementation of Avid happens in our schools in terms of talking about those strategies. The teachers, all teachers across the curriculum, teaching Cornell notes, using Socratic seminars, using other strategies that are embedded within Avid beyond just the kids that are enrolled in Avid per se.
So if we were going to add the other middle schools to the Avid program, that would increase our annual application fee?
Correct.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda, we have the FRED program, Families Read Every Day. And leading us tonight is Donna Roper, our District Library Media Coordinator, and Dr. Banikowski, our Deputy Superintendent.
Great. We are so excited to present to you some information about a project that occurred recently in our community. And I really mean in our community. This was certainly not something that happened just in the school district, but really involved our community. And Families Read Every Day, of course, is what the acronym FRED stands for. The first thing I'd like to do is to recognize that this would not have been possible without partners. We had partners that made this project a reality. And probably one of our biggest and most wonderful partner was the Olathe Public Schools Foundation. They gave not only over $60,000 for us to be able to do FRED throughout our school district for all our elementary children, but they also helped to be at FRED events, and they helped with, getting ready for it. They did a lot of organization, a lot of presence. Tonight, we have with us Kristen Schultz, who is representing the foundation, and I'd like to just take a moment for us to recognize the foundation for their support of the FRED program. So thank you very much. wonderful program.
And can I add to that? The foundation did an excellent job of promoting this out on Facebook.
Oh, yes.
The pictures every evening, I love seeing those.
Oh my gosh, and we got such wonderful reviews, if you will. Another one of our partners was the Olathe Public Library, and we're very fortunate to have such a wonderful relationship in our community with the Olathe Public Library. You know, not every community has that kind of relationship, but every once in a while, actually, I think that members of their staff are members of our staff because they are at so many functions, and they help to promote it, not only, you know, coming to our schools and doing some things, but also in the Olathe Public Library. And tonight we have the individual who really helped spearhead that, and was Kate Capps. I wish you would stand and we could recognize them. Thank you. And you know, there was a lot of work that went into preparing for this. You know, you just don't dream it up and do it the next day. And we had a wonderful district committee. And that committee put together so much of the activities and really got our students prepared. And I think you'll hear that a little bit from Donna when she talks that, you know, our students didn't just come to the event and do the event. They were prepared for the event. It's very similar to a field trip. You know, kids can go someplace, but if they've been prepared in the classroom or in the library, in the school, in their families, it really makes it much more of a worthwhile event. So I would like to, you can see all the individuals listed there that were part of the district committee, and I would love to have them stand so we could recognize all the work that they did. Thank you. Very fortunate. And you know, really, any committee needs a leader. And we're very fortunate that Donna Roper was the leader. She does this in a quiet manner, in a calm manner, and she gets all these things organized. And so we're very fortunate to have and she's going to be speaking in a few minutes, but she has been a wonderful facilitator and cheerleader of this project. So I recognize you too, Donna. Well, this is what some of the things that the district committee and which involved both Kate and also the Public Schools Foundation was very much doing. I mean, everything from reading 20 books because you have to select the book that you think is going to fit for kids kindergarten through 5th grade and for different families. Did a lot of that, creating activities, and it was amazing what they were able to create to prepare the students for this wonderful event. So let's have just a little pictorial look, and Donna's going to lead us through that of what are some of the things that happened because of the FRED program.
Thank you, Dr. Manicaste. Well, we're going to start the week of January 7th through 11th with anticipatory activities. When the students came back to school from winter break, they were given hints about what FRED might be. They saw throughout the school things like brown socks. They saw red bandanas. They saw hamster wheels. They saw all sorts of things that pertain to the book, because we wanted to get the kids really excited about this, and we wanted them to guess what FRED might be. By the end of this week, we had lots of buzz going around the schools as what is FRED and what's it going to do, that type of thing. So the next Monday when they came in, January 14th, this was our kickoff, and all of our elementary schools designed a kickoff for their building. And we had some wonderful activities that went on with those kickoffs. You can see here at Bentwood, we had the Lady Kangaroos from UMKC that visited and did some activities with the kids. At Briarwood, we had the student council, and the student council came up with posters about where to read and what to read and hints for reading. And then you can see at the distribution there the excitement that was on the kids' faces. I was at one of the distributions, and I actually had kids say, "Do I get to keep the book? Is it mine?" And of course I was able to say, "Yes, it's yours." And so for some of those kids, they said they never had a book that they owned. So that was pretty cool, we thought. Just some other pictures of events that took place during that opening day time. What I thought was one of the best things about this whole project is that every kindergarten through 5th grade student received a book. And it was a book, like I said, a lot of these kids don't own books, so this was really important to them. And it was through the work with the Olathe Public School Foundation, but we also worked with Reading Reptile.
which was an independent bookstore in Brookside. And he was able to give us the books at a great reduced price so that we could actually give every student a book, and that was pretty important. Received lots of comments. During those 3 weeks, no matter where you went in Olathe, you heard comments about Fred. I went to a soccer game and I heard about Fred. I went to church and I heard about Fred. So it was really exciting about this project. One of the student quotes that really touched my heart was that her parents, this was the first time they had sat down and read with her. And I thought that was pretty cool. These are just some pictures that we received on the Facebook from that parents and students sent in, and you can see kids were reading everywhere, parents, and they were reading to their animals, they were reading to their everything. So these are just some pictures that we received, and we thought that was kind of cool. One of the highlights was that we were able to have Claudia Mills, the author of Mason-Dixon Pet Disasters, which was the book that we chose. She was able to visit, and she visited 8 of our elementary schools and gave presentations to them. We have an author visit every year, and it was these 8 schools' rotation time, so that's why we chose those 8 schools. She also visited, she did 3 community events for us. This was at Indian Creek Library. We had a room set aside for her that held about 75 people. We had 110 crammed into that room, and we had to turn some away. So that was neat. The next day, she went to Olathe Public Library, and we had over 270 that visited that day with our author. The last event that we had was at California Trail Middle School, and we had over 180 participants that night, and it was a really cold and rainy night, and we weren't too sure we'd have too many, so we felt fortunate there. Claudia, at that night, made the comment, and then she put it on her Facebook account as well. If I died and went to heaven, I would wake up in Olathe, Kansas. She felt that this was the best thing that had ever happened to her, and so she was very excited about it. As Dr. Banikowski said, we not only had home events, we had school activities that were designed by the committee, and we had kids making predictions about what was going to happen to Mason-Dixon in his desire not to have pets, and then what pets he was going to get because his parents insisted that he had to have pets. We had kindergarten students write stories about the characters that were in the book. We had posters. We had all kinds of things, really, that the kids did at school with their teachers. We had a kindergarten student that posted this picture to Facebook, and Guy Francis, who was the book's illustrator, commented on her drawing, which was, we thought, pretty cool. And at the end of the 3 weeks, many of the schools had culminating activities, and one of the ones that we thought was the most fun was Pleasant Ridge, and they had a cake decorating contest. And the students brought in cakes that depicted events that were in the story. And of course, the best part was they got to eat the cake at the end.
Yeah.
Guy Francis, again, he posted this to our Facebook page. He was very excited as well that this book had been chosen, so this was his thank you to us. We just want to thank the Olathe Public Foundation for the opportunity. This went way beyond our wildest expectations. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
I think the board does appreciate that this was very generous on the part of the foundation, and it's my sincere hope we can repeat this in the future. And if we do, I would suggest that they buy 7 additional copies for board members, because I felt a little left out.
If you have those copies, if you would like them, I'm sure.
I would actually, yes.
It was a great book. And to watch what the kids did with it, the teachers did it with, the librarians did with it, was just absolutely amazing. The principals were out there. It was just a great community. And reading what the parents wrote was just touching, very touching.
Any other comments?
Wonderful.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Martin, I can't resist. I wouldn't want a freebie, but I would be willing to make a donation to the foundation if I were to get a book.
Okay.
And maybe other board members can follow
now
that
the pressure's
example.
on. Okay, I think we have time to tackle a few agenda items before we take our comfort break.
Mr. Poland has had to excuse himself, so it'll just be the four of you.
Okay. Well, we need four votes, guys. So let's see if we can do this.
No pressure.
Under the consent agenda, we have minutes for our regular meeting and our special meeting, our financial reports, a human resources report, and a student trip. Are there any questions or items that board members would like to pull for individual consideration? Seeing none, then I would accept a motion.
I move to approve consent agenda items number 5.01 to 5.06 as presented.
Second.
Ms. Hibbs, I have a motion by Ms. Felter and a second by Mr. Parker. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Shear?
Yes.
The motion carries. Under bids, contracts, and agreements, the first item we have is the Avid Program, our implementation agreement for 2013-14. Questions or comments? Then a motion?
I move to approve the annual implementation agreement for our Avid Advanced via Individual Determination programs as presented.
Second?
Ms. Hibbs, we have a motion by Mr. Shear and a second by Ms. Felter. Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Shear?
Yes.
Motion carries. 6.02, our Service Center forklift bid. Comments or questions?
I'd move to accept the low bid from the GW Van Kappel Company for a Hyundai 15BT7 three-wheel electric forklift in the amount of $24,327.49, including a 3-year, 4,000-hour warranty.
Second?
Ms. Hibbs, I have a motion by Mr. Parker and a second by Ms. Felter. Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Shear?
Yes.
Motion carries. 6.03, elementary number 35, water main extension petition and agreement and easements. Comments or questions? Seeing none, a motion?
I move to approve elementary 35's water main extension petition agreement and easements as presented.
Second.
Ms. Hibbs, I have a motion by Ms. Felter and a second by Mr. Parker. Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Shear?
Yes.
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Motion carries. 6.04, pool interior renovations at Pioneer Trail. Comments or questions? Then a motion?
Move to approve the low bid from Continental Pool Incorporated for the pool interior renovation at Pioneer Trail Middle School.
Second?
Ms. Hibbs, I have a motion by Mr. Parker and a second by Ms. Felter. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Shear?
Yes.
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes. 6.05, trade bids for 4 elementary renovations. Comments or questions? Then a motion?
I move to approve the bids listed in the bid summary as presented.
Second.
Ms. Hibbs, I have a motion by Ms. Felter and a second by Mr. Parker. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Shear?
Yes.
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Motion carries. 6.06, network hardware for student information system. Questions or comments? Then a motion?
I move to award the bid for student information system hardware to Alexander Open Systems for $105,125.79.
Second?
Ms. Hibbs, I have a motion by Mr. Shear and a second by Ms. Felter. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Shear?
Yes.
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Motion carries. 6.07, our desktop computer bid. Questions or comments?
Move to award the HP desktop monitor and speaker bar bid to Technology Group Solutions in the amount of $1,231,659.
Second?
Ms. Hibbs, I have a motion by Mr. Parker and a second by Ms. Felter. Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Shear?
Yes.
Motion carries. 6.08, our laptop computer bid. Questions? On the motion?
I move to award the HP laptop computer bid to Riverside Technologies in the amount of $159,700.
Second.
Mr. Parker was louder.
Go ahead. He always is.
Ms. Hibbs, I have a motion by Mr. Scheer and a second by Mr. Parker. Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Scheer?
Yes.
6.09, our Apple computer bid. Questions or comments? Then a motion.
I move to approve Apple Education purchase for computers and laptops for a total purchase price of $219,647.40.
Second.
Ms. Hibbs, I have a motion by Mr. Scheer and a second by Ms. Felter. Would you call the roll?
Mrs. Felter?
Yes. Sorry.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Scheer?
Yes.
Motion carries. I know it might seem to the public that we cruise through those kind of quickly, but we do receive a lot of information in advance that board members study. We can move on. What's the pleasure of the board? We can take a long comfort break, or we can wait.
Can we move on? I'm having an allergic reaction, just in case since we're short. I think I'm fine, but I would hate for us not to be able to do business if I have to leave for some reason.
Okay.
Do you mind if we hustle
Nope,
through?
that is all right. We will continue on with our other action items. 7.01, our professional audit services. Comments or questions?
I would move to award professional audit services to Mize, Hauser and Company in accordance with the requirements and scope of work as detailed in RFP number 1213-007.
Second.
Ms. Hibbs, I have a motion by Mr. Parker and a second by Mr. Scheer.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Scheer?
Yes.
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Motion carries. 7.02, student meal prices.
I'd like Dr. Berry to make a comment on this. I understand that we're in a position where if we do not approve this increase in meal prices, that's a substantial hit to our food service program in regards to federal dollars. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is part of federal
And
guidelines.
how much is that?
That we would lose?
Yes. $4 million.
Yeah.
All right.
So they give us so much reimbursement, obviously, and so they make sure you set the price at a certain level so that we don't have a real cheap meal and are making money on that deal, which we are not, obviously. But we do need to set it at this level so that we can get full federal reimbursement.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that because it's important for our public to understand that the board members find themselves in a position where if we do not approve this, and we have to come up with $4 million to reimburse food services, and we'd have to do that out of our operating fund, which is pretty skimpy anyway. So that's why I would make the motion to approve the proposed changes for student and meal prices for the 2013-14 school year as presented.
Second.
Ms. Hibbs, I have a motion by Mr. Parker and a second by Ms. Felter. Would you call the roll?
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Scheer?
Yes.
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Well, to Mr. Parker's point of this, I mean, it's a 10-cent raise to be able to save $4 million. So again, just putting that number out there makes a lot of sense to us at this point.
7.03, Court of Tax Appeals for our Olathe Advanced Technical Center.
I just have one question. Do we have a hearing date scheduled for that?
No, we do not. Upon action by the board tonight, we'll submit the applications, and then a hearing date will be set. That hearing date will be advertised in the local newspaper.
Again, for the benefit of the public and the listening audience, a lot of people wouldn't understand why we're doing this and the purpose behind this. So could you just give us an executive version of what we're doing here and what we'll be doing when we go to Topeka to ask for appeal to the Board of Tax Appeals?
Certainly. One of the state recognizes that when a school district opens new buildings, there's an added operational cost that the district suddenly takes on. They allow the board levy authority to collect funds to offset that for basically 5 years. And it's 100% the first 2 years, and then it winds down 75, 50, 25%, and then we're fully on our own to do that. So this would give you the authority, although you do not have to act on that authority. It just grants you the authority to levy tax to cover that.
But the Board of Tax Appeals has to give us that authority.
Exactly.
Typically speaking, they would if we have a good presentation. And the other thing is that these are local dollars. And as we have calculated our mill levy for this year and going forward, we have calculated the impact of approval, assuming approval of this. We've already calculated this into our mill levy calculations.
Right. Actually, our mill levy will be decreasing from other projects that are coming off, and would more than offset the increase from this.
So as it relates to the bond issue, we can still state, even though that we would be going for this authority and asking for this authority, that still has been factored into what we've already calculated in regards to our bond election.
Correct.
Okay. If you would, when you get that date, if you would let the board members know, I think it's always appropriate for a board member to be there when the appeal is made.
It's a bit of a different process now. It's the Court of Tax Appeals, not the Board of Tax Appeals.
It used to be the board. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay, so when you get that hearing date, could you let the board know?
Certainly will.
Thank you.
Then would you like to make a motion, Mr. Parker?
I would move to approve the application to the State Court of Tax Appeals for the Olathe Advanced Technical Center as presented.
Second.
Ms. Hibbs, I have a motion by Mr. Parker and a second by Mr. Scheer. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Scheer?
Yes.
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
I think we can quickly knock these out. The student trip, the DECA Club to Anaheim, California. Questions or comments? Then a motion?
I move to approve the student trip as presented.
Second.
Ms. Hibbs, I have a motion by Mr. Scheer and a second by Ms. Felter. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Scheer?
Yes.
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Motion carries. 7.05, our first robotics team to St. Louis. Questions or comments? Then a motion.
I move to approve student trip as presented.
Second.
Ms. Hibbs, we have a motion by Ms. Felter and a second by Mr. Parker. Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Scheer?
Yes.
The motion carries. We will take our comfort break. I encourage you to go out and enjoy the high school art reception. We'll meet back here at 7 o'clock. Welcome back, everyone. At this point in the evening, we like to do some recognitions and awards, and I believe leading us tonight will be Ms. Maggie Kolb, with help from Mr. Parker.
Good evening. We have 3 recognitions tonight. I'd like to welcome all of our distinguished guests. We're going to begin our recognitions tonight with a business partner. I'd like to ask Heather Schoonover from Community Development and Kristen Schultz from the Olathe Public Schools Foundation Board to come forward to help with this recognition. Tonight we recognize Main Street Credit Union. Main Street Credit Union is a business partner who is dedicated to supporting the Olathe Public Schools in many areas. Main Street sponsors the Olathe Public Schools Foundation Educator Excellence Award. This award recognizes educators demonstrating teaching excellence by honoring them for meeting the needs of their students, working with others, and bridging the gap to reach parents. Their financial support to the foundation has also touched important programs such as Rachel's Challenge and the Fred Reading Program. For more than 20 years, the credit union has hosted a luncheon for administrative assistants and secretarial support teams in our schools and support buildings. They provide this at the beginning of each school year, which has been a cherished token of appreciation for our classified staff. We also appreciate the leadership that Main Street Credit Union's branch in downtown Olathe has given to our Adopt a School program with Central Elementary. Tonight we recognize Main Street Credit Union and their instrumental partnership with the Olathe Public Schools. Will the following individuals please come forward? John Beverlin, President, Kathy Saunders, Partnership Coordinator, and John Montgomery, Olathe Branch Manager. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for all you do. Next, we'd like to recognize Julie Bleese, a first grade teacher at Ravenwood Elementary. Julie, if you could come forward, along with Principal Jim Brockway. Julie has been named a Kansas Master Teacher by Emporia State University. This award has been in existence since 1953, and fewer than 10 teachers are selected each year. To be eligible for nomination, each candidate must have served at least 5 years in schools in Kansas as a teacher or instructional leader and have exemplified teaching or administrative effectiveness. Her principal, Jim Brockway, described Julie as someone who provides exceptional school service on a daily basis. He said, "When I'm in her classroom, I see kindness, patience, tolerance, and joy. Julie has confidence in her teaching abilities and is willing to give without the thought of gain." Congratulations to you, Julie. Thank you. And our final recognition tonight is of the Olathe North Boys Bowling Team. I'd like to ask the team to come forward, along with Athletic Director Jason Herman, Head Coach Daleen Mumau, and Assistant Coach Jim Anderson. The Olathe North Boys Bowling Team won the Kansas State Class 6A State Championship. This is the team's second title in a row. The team members are Travis Sixta, raise your hand when I say your name, Horace Paul, Tristan Music, Drake Rapu, Brandon Russell, and Kenneth Kent. Congratulations to each of you. And gentlemen, I know your families are here tonight. We'd love for them to stand and be recognized as well. Congratulations on your fantastic success. And that concludes our recognitions tonight. Thank you.
At each regular meeting, the Board of Education reserves limited time for individuals wishing to address the board. We request that individual speakers limit their comments to 5 minutes. The clerk will monitor the time and notify the speaker when the 5-minute time limit has expired. Please direct your comments to the entire board. If a response is appropriate, the president will respond or refer to another individual. In an effort to respect privacy, we ask that speakers refrain from discussing personal complaints involving individual staff members or students. Those speaking are advised that public comments are videotape recorded for broadcast on the district's Educational Access Channel and audio tape recorded as a matter of public record. Individuals addressing the board should come to the podium at the front of the room and state your name and address. I don't believe anyone has signed up in advance. If there's anyone wishing to make a public comment tonight, this is your chance. Seeing none, we will move along. It looks like we took care of all of the action we need to address tonight. However, we have some future action items on our agenda, which you can see on your list. I believe that Dr. Dugan is going to make a quick presentation about the Miracle League of Olathe.
Seconds. Thank you. On one of the first evenings or days, it actually feels like spring, and I believe Monday is opening day at the Royals. I think this is real timely, and I appreciate just a few brief moments to provide the board that maybe doesn't know some of the history of the board's involvement in the Miracle League to give you a quick update. Primarily, the Miracle League has a partnership with the school district. I'll talk a little bit about that. The future action tonight is about a property agreement between the school district and the Miracle League of Olathe. But to give you a little bit of history about a project that started back in 2006, I'm going to show you just a few moments of a larger video. If you're interested, I'm happy to share the link just to give a flavor for the ballpark and what we're talking about.
You know, I was coaching my son for a number of years, and there we were one year in the state finals playing, you know, to go to the World Series, and my daughter was on the sideline. You know, she doesn't get to play, and that kind of struck home with me, that I decided that, you know, we would try to get her some sort of activity.
The Garners called other parents of disabled kids around their Atlanta suburb of Conyers, and they agreed upon a simple idea.
We'll get out and we'll throw the ball, we'll let them get some sunshine on their face, and it'll be a glorious day, we'll have fun. We had 35 kids. That was the need, and we went from there.
The children were of all ages and disabilities, and the parents who brought them to the park that day in 1998 for an informal baseball game called their group the Miracle League.
Explain to me, Gary, about what are the rules?
Everybody's going to get to bat, everybody's going to hit, and everybody's going to score a run every inning. And if they can hit with a pitch, we'll throw them a pitch. If they can hit off a tee, they'll hit off a tee.
In order to facilitate that, however, it quickly became clear that the players would need help from able-bodied kids.
We've got 12 children out there, and probably 8 or 9 of them need some sort of significant help on or off the field. We figured, let's ask some of the players to come out, and we'll just call them buddies. They can be their buddy for the game. And that really took off.
Originally, the games were played on a regular baseball field, but the kids struggled getting their wheelchairs through the grass and the dirt. So the Rockdale County Rotary Club and surrounding community worked together to raise over $750,000 to build a state-of-the-art synthetic turf field that's fully handicap accessible. The field opened last April. The 35 original Miracle Leaguers have now expanded to 120 players, and to date the field remains the only one of its kind.
Look at that. Woo! What does the Miracle League mean to you, Lauren?
Well, first of all, it means that I get to live my dream of playing baseball like my friends. And second, it means I get to make new friends and meet new people. Third, it means I just get to have fun.
This is Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
You play Saturdays, right?
I have a game on Friday.
Friday. So when do you start thinking about that?
I think about it all week.
We would never have envisioned that a child who fractures easily and is visually impaired would be playing a sport.
Lauren's mother has seen the impact that playing in the league has had on her daughter.
It's great for her self-esteem to be part of something, to feel like a normal kid, that she can go to school and talk about her game when the other kids are talking about their games. You know, she's just part of the gang.
And it's not just the kids who get something out of the league. For the parents, many of whom have to work full-time just taking care of their kids, it's a joy as well.
You see these parents in the stand cheering them on. I mean, going around first base, second base. It's as much a thrill as it is playing in the state finals of a baseball game. For us, it is.
Your son, Zach, pretty good athlete.
Yes. Yep.
Now, what's the feeling watching Zach in a traditional competition and watching Lindsay in the Miracle League? Is it pretty much the same, or is it different?
I'm not sure, but I can tell you I've never cried watching Zach wrestle or play baseball, but I've cried watching Lindsay play.
Just a snippet. It's about a 10-minute video, and I didn't want to do that for you, but it gives you a nice flavor. So quickly, 2006, a small group of Olathe fabulous community members saw that video. Dr. Pat All was one of those folks and came back to the community and back to the school board and said, we've got to build a field like that in Olathe. The Olathe Medical Center kicked it off and pledged $125,000, and then in 2006, the school board at the time followed up by agreeing to go into a future agreement with the Miracle League of Olathe for some property out at Seaback. should we get to a point of building the field. Can you switch me back to PowerPoint? Sorry. And while it almost seems like yesterday, and yet it seems like...
It brought tears to my eyes just seeing him out there, because...
No, you're fine. So since 2006, quick, what's happened? Slow and steady progress. The Miracle League of Olathe established itself as a nonprofit charitable organization. It developed a community advisory board, and it began its fundraising efforts. And they've been slow, the fundraising efforts. But as things happen, and folks tell me this is not atypical, this fall and the spring has been pretty exciting for us. Let me briefly tell you, this is the original group of partners: Strickland Construction, the Medical Center, the city of Olathe, obviously, and the School District of Mid-America that were originally part of this group. This fall, we had a couple more partners. We were at a luncheon with some folks from Variety of Kansas City, which is a children's charity, and they said, hey, guess what? We want to meet you guys to meet some folks from Cal Ripken Senior Foundation. And so, excited to say that on March 28th, the Royals held a press conference and announced that Major League Baseball, in terms of some of its profits from us having the All-Star game here in Kansas City, donated to the Olathe Miracle League $150,000. Cal Ripken Senior Foundation followed with $50,000. Variety of Kansas City followed with another $50,000. And so we are ready for phase one, and we'd like to build a field out at CBAC. So brought to you tonight just as a future action item that we'd like to bring back in next month for you to take action is a property agreement between the school district and the Miracle League of Olathe. We'll be doing an agreement with the city of Olathe to operate the league, but with you guys. Cal Ripken will be actually our contractor, has agreed at no charge to help organize with Strickland Construction the actual construction of the field. So the exciting news tonight for you guys to contemplate, and I'd certainly take any questions though. The promise we made to the Royals in Major League Baseball was our attempt to have a field built out at CBAC. CBAC, a place where athletes go and families cheer, where a special group of athletes can go and an entire community can cheer for them. So I'd be happy to take any questions. I know that's a lot of information fast.
Is the structure there to allow for wheelchairs and access from the parking lot, or will that be all part of it?
It's all part of the project, right? And the whole kind of the Miracle League Park will accommodate from once you pull into the parking lot, which is great there at CBAC. The location, if you can see where it is from the map, really sits right off that parking lot to the north of it. And so from that point on, it'll be handicap accessible into the park. All the restrooms, the concession stands, they'll actually be set up so that you could be in a wheelchair and working the concession stand. So it'll be all handicap accessible inside too. Lots more details I'd love to share if you're interested. Going to be a pretty impressive project. Phase one, we've probably raised about $400,000. Lots of in-kind donations, the community, in terms of who's going to give us the concrete and some of those things. And then phase two will be finishing the bathrooms and concession stands.
So will they have like a regular schedule that they're going to be playing out there? Have they had any of those discussions? How often they'll use the field? When will they use the field? Will it? And question is it going to interfere with some of the other activities that are going out there?
It typically happens on Saturday mornings or Saturdays, although they can do some Friday nights. In visiting with folks in terms of that parking lot, we should be okay regardless. We won't compete with other activities going on. Our experience is only based really on the National Miracle League Association. There is a current Miracle League of Kansas City, if you've seen it in the news. It is in a young gentleman's backyard in Merriam, Kansas, and it's been there for 12 years. And they've been playing baseball in his backyard, and so he's very excited for a bit of an upgrade. But they've been a wonderful place. But Atlanta ended up, after I think their first season, running 10 teams in a full league. The Royals and Major League Baseball also granted a similar grant to Independence, Missouri, and so we already kind of see a cross-state league. And the one in Merriam, Kansas, the backyard, families drive in from Topeka for their child to have an opportunity to play. So we really see that just the accessibility of this location off of K10 and K7 that we're likely to bring in folks. And, certainly for Olathe, but the metropolitan area for sure.
Is there an opportunity for shared use between the Miracle League and the school district and being able to utilize the field when they're not utilizing the field?
We think there'll be lots.
That?
Yes, we'll always be the property owners, so it'll be ours. We will let the Miracle League begin construction on it, and that's part of this property, and they'll be our leasee, and then the city will agree to operate it. But there's lots of those continuing partnerships for other of our programs and other folks that would benefit from that accessible field. We've talked about PE classes and some soccer games. So we're hoping there'll just be tons of
Special Olympics and things such as
Special
that, possibly,
Olympics.
different things. Okay, good.
Lots of opportunities, we hope.
Thank you very much. Do board members have questions or comments about any other items on our future action item agenda? In addition to what we've heard tonight, the board also received written information. We had a staff survey results come in. We also saw results of our parent-teacher conferences. We have some construction change orders and our regular Head Start monthly director's report. Are there any comments or questions on those items?
Madam President, I just had one comment on the staff survey results. Dr. Vanikowski, can you bring that up, the executive summary? Can you bring it up on the screen? Or is it? No? All right. I can bring it up. It's a part of the agenda. And in regards to the individual workplace comments, there's a question here that asks, I have received recognition / appreciation for my work from my supervisor, other staff, parents, students, etc. And I just want to comment on this. In 0809, we were 66.3% approval on that. Went to 69, 70.8 last year, 70.2 this year. An 11-point increase, 83.9. So, Dr. Berry, I want to congratulate however that's happening, that we've gone from 66 to 83. That means that somebody is out there appreciating our staff, and they know that we appreciate, even these difficult times, we haven't been able to provide financial incentives like we would like to, but certainly there's motivation and esprit de corps on the part of our staff, and that's coming from leadership, building principals, administrative staff. And so kudos to everyone in that regard. It's a big improvement.
Great, I think, improvement in there. And I think there's many positive things in the staff survey that should make us feel good about working in for the Olathe Public Schools. Certainly people are satisfied, the job satisfaction at 92%. And we had a large group finish the survey, which is also very rare. First of all, there's not many school districts that do this annually, but we believe very much that we are a people business, and we need to make sure we have quality staff and they feel good about their working conditions, so they're helping us to achieve our mission. And you look at I am proud to tell others that I work for the Olathe Public Schools, 96%, and that was 78% of our entire working staff. So very positive results.
I'm just thinking this is really a wonderful report on the behalf of our leadership and our teachers, and I don't want us to gloss over this, and I think it would be important maybe for next week for us to have a presentation so the public could see these results as well. Don't want to tell you how to run a board meeting, but I think this is really powerful here.
We were scheduled next month to bring the parent survey, so we just tried to give you little bits of surveys, but we certainly could bring this back with some slides.
Yeah, there's some really good, some great positives in here. I mean, it's just awesome. It's incredible, and it's the Olathe way, and we need to celebrate this. Okay.
I will admit, though, I'm always dismayed to see that the answer to the question, I know how the school district is doing financially, and we can't seem to break out of that 60% mode there. So I would encourage the board and staff to do their best to convey to staff how it is we make this school district run. And quite honestly, as a board member and having been on the board for 8 years now, it is very complex and very complicated, and I can understand why people would respond and say, I really don't get it. But I do wish that we would continue to try to convey the message to the best of our ability of how we fit all the pieces together financially.
I know that's very frustrating. John Hutchison has worked so much this year in getting out to our staff. Our certified staff rating on that was higher than our classified staff, so there may be some things to look at there. But certainly that's something that we look at. There were also a lot of I just don't know. So it wasn't that we think we agree with that, we just don't know. So we continue to work on that, and certainly a lot of information on the website and on the ozone, but I know John has worked so much on that with especially our certified staff. He's been to practically every building in the district giving a presentation on that, but we'll keep working on that. I know John has some goals.
We break this information out by building, and 96% of the people that work in this building know how the district's doing financially. So I thought that was pretty good.
Hopefully at least in 2 offices anyway, for sure.
The updates, yeah.
You know, and I just don't want to leave this because of all of the things that have gone on Topeka this year. And I know there's some angst on a part of our teachers, and we just really need to celebrate it and tell our teachers that we appreciate them, and the public needs to know that as well. And that's why I think this is good information for board members, but our community needs to know this as well.
Do board members have any topics they would like to bring up for discussion this evening?
Well, I do have a topic, however, I think probably Dr. Berry is going to talk about civic presentations in regard to the bond issue, so my comments could follow his comments.
Anything else? Then, Dr. Berry, it's your turn.
I also want to take just a second to congratulate the incumbents, even though Mike had to excuse himself, leave a little bit. Congratulations and welcome back for 4 more years. Very pleased with that. Also want to welcome Brent McCune, and we'll look forward to having him serve on the board. We are working on a board orientation booklet, something a little more formal as suggested by board, and so we'll make sure and share that with all of you so that you can have a peek at that as well. A lot of things that you now take for granted in terms of functioning as a board, but we'll certainly share that as we begin to orient Brent to the transition. Also wanted to share tonight that we've been asked by KASB if we would host an advocacy meeting again like we did last June. There's just one to be held in Johnson County, and they'd like to do it here if we could, and I've talked with the other Johnson County superintendents. So the week of June 10th through the 14th, sometime that week, we will host a meeting like we did last year in this room where Mark Tallman and others, John Heim was here, will again share. It's important, I think, to KASB as they get ready to go into the next legislative session that they hear from members, and so it will be opened up to all of the Kansas side of the metro if they would like to come to this advocacy meeting. So we'll be sharing more about that, the exact date pretty soon. As Ms. Ashley said, I do want to talk a little bit about the communication plan for the bond issue, and you're going to be hearing more and more about that. But Maggie and staff have put together a plan that continues to get tweaked and improved, and working with John and Aaron and others of us. We already have almost 40 meetings scheduled out in our community to take the message of the bond issue out. There are 4 specific town halls that have already been scheduled. Olathe North on April 22nd, Olathe East on the 23rd of April, 29th of April is Northwest, and the 30th is Olathe South, but these will all be publicized. And again, part of all of these meetings that we continue to add to the list daily. The video has been finished by staff, and I think you'll be pleased with that. The brochure is being worked on right now. Everything you wanted to know maybe about the bond issue, and if it's not there, it'll be pointing people to our website, but it will be mailed during May. And just as a reminder, as we prepare all of this, the district does not work on any materials or any message to say, vote yes, or you have to do this, or those kinds of persuasive materials. It is purely informational. And so that's what you'll see from the video, the brochure, our town hall meetings. It will be to just educate our community, answer questions, and then encourage them to vote, but certainly not tell them how to vote. Ms. Ashley, at this point, some comments or add?
Yes, I wanted to ask of my fellow board members that, to the best of our ability, that we as board members make an effort to attend as many of these presentations as we can. And if we take 40 divided by 7, then that means that each of us might be attending as many as 5 presentations. I think it's important, having been through 2 bond issues during my term on the board, that the board have a presence at these presentations so that the community recognizes that we support the bond issue. It's not just a staff presentation, but that the board supports this, and we have voted unanimously to put this out there to the public for a vote. So I'm, trying to coordinate my schedule. I've already got 3 of them that I intend to attend. So I would just say to all of you with your busy lives, I'd appreciate it if you do the same.
Would it be possible, Dr. Berry, for your office to kind of keep a master schedule so that as we're looking at that, we can check and see if another board member has signed up, and then we'll know how to...
Certainly. We sent you that master schedule, and we will update that every week and send it out to you.
Okay.
Opal is the keeper of that, and it's a very detailed schedule that you can see in terms of some of them are mornings, some are noons, evenings, some are feeder schools, site councils, which are of interest to you, all of you I know. And so she tried to put a lot of information on there that will be helpful.
So then, board members, as you make your plans, make sure you notify Ms. Hibbs about those so she can keep it updated. I will say that I was at the first presentation at the Olathe Noon Rotary on Wednesday. I thought that the video was outstanding, absolutely outstanding, and Mr. Hutchinson did a great job with the presentation. The first question took about 1.5 seconds, and it was, where's the high school going to be? So be ready. Be ready.
The second question is, what is the timetable for the opening of the high school?
Actually,
and the third question is, when will the boundaries be determined?
It was the boundaries, I think, was 2.
My answer to the high school question is someplace in the Olathe School District.
Just a couple other comments and turn to the legislature that is hard at work in Topeka, long days, I think, right now. It appears now, though, for certain that we will not have a budget. They will not have a budget before they break, because they break tomorrow. They will be back then May 8th, and that will be obviously high on the list. That's of great interest to us because right now that key piece is whether or not they're going to keep sales tax. And if they don't get that done and put into the budget, then it appears no other way to balance the budget but yet to have severe cuts for education, because we are such a big part of that. One bill that we've talked about in the past and I've shared with you is about the ancillary weighting, and you heard John with his presentation a little bit tonight are answering questions about the Court of Tax Appeals and how we get that money for 2 years and then it declines by 25% each year. A bill was carried by Johnson County legislators to see if we could still have that decline but not as rapid. It would be wonderful for our budget to provide some stability to not go down quite so fast. It would be 90, 75, 60, 45, 30, 15, and then phase out. It's still a decrease each year for our taxpayers in the county, but or in our community, but it would be a less rapid decline for us. We were able to get that out of committee. It did go through the House very close. I got something even tonight while we were here that it's in trouble again. A lot of people just don't understand it. It is revenue neutral to the state. It is all local levy. There's no equalization to it. It's not, it's not like we're getting a step ahead. It's because we have growth and we need to open schools, and this is a way to help rapidly growing school districts. That's how it's defined by statute. So again, we're going to have to watch that closely and see what help we can give it.
Dr. Berry, if we were to address comments to legislators, to which house would those comments go now? And
right now it's in conference committee, so it's both that are going to have to pass it out again.
And it would be the education committee?
It's actually, you could go to our full delegation, Johnson County delegation, both sides. If they could hear from you, it would be wonderful. You've also heard a little bit, just a smattering of things I'll touch on now in terms of other things that are being talked about and worked on, and we again try to monitor the questions of guns and concealed carry in schools. It appears now that we will be exempt from all of those bills. For a time it looked like it was going to come back, exempt from any security provisions that we would have to provide for concealed carry. There's still in statute or authority that school boards can actually decide some of that, but these new provisions that are coming out in terms of things at entrances and stuff in order to whether or not you can have concealed carry, we would be exempt from that, which is a positive for us. Celebrate Freedom, it looks like, is coming through, a curriculum piece, but now it's been modified that it will be 8th grade and below to celebrate freedom in our country and the way in which we do that. Again, kind of fits into social studies and some things we do, but again, with this modification, we can be okay. The Common Core is still one that is unknown at this point. It did not come out of committee, but it is one of those that's exempt, and so it could still always be attached to something. my comment about that, somebody has asked, well, what would happen if it goes away, if the legislature says we cannot implement Common Core in our school district? Well, it will be a problem for us because we are down that road running pretty hard, and it's been all locally driven by our staff members. We have those standards that were provided by Common Core, but the curriculum development has been by our teachers, the resources selected by our teachers, and again, all local effort. We are excited about what Common Core will bring to the classroom. You've heard the language arts presentation that said, our classic literature's not gone away. We're excited about the change in writing in terms of now our kids are going to be asked to write and provide evidence to support the points in a piece of writing, which again, a really good skill. The math standards have come directly from the math teachers in this country, the Math Teachers Association. So again, very firm footing for us. The other thing that Common Core is doing for us, it's just kind of rejuvenating our curriculum and pumping it up with the latest research and practices that what we know are successful in the classroom. So it's really a very positive thing for us. But we'll watch that to see if Common Core will continue. Those are my quick comments tonight.
I believe we need an executive session. I think 25 minutes ought to take care of us tonight. So if someone would like to make a motion.
I move that the board adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel, to discuss matters relating to employer-employee negotiations, and for the preliminary discussion relating to the acquisition of real property, and that the board return to the regular meeting at 8 p.m. in this room. The executive session is required in order to protect the privacy interests of the individuals to be discussed, to protect the district's right to the confidentiality of its negotiating position and the public interest, and to protect the district's financial interest and bargaining position.
Second?
Second.
Ms. Hibbs, we have a motion by Ms. Ashley and a second by Mr. Scheer. Would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Felter?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Scheer?
Yes.
Ms. Ashley?
Yes.